So today I'm working on, I believe it's an '07 Toyota Highlander. I was getting a complaint of a vibrating noise, a rattle. I thought for sure it was going to be the heat shield, but took a look at the heat shield. It's intact, it's not loose. Started looking for other heat shields. There's one back there by the muffler and the gas tank. That one's intact and tightly mounted. I'm thinking to myself, what the heck could it be? So I opened the hood and I started the engine because I couldn't find it, and I listened and I heard a rattle coming from right here. I said, oh boy, are we rotted out or something? So I took a look and I wiggled, and the heat shield on the cat is intact and the flange is intact, but this thing was rattling. I said, what the hell is that? Give it a tug. I guess this passes as a muffler clamp or an exhaust pipe clamp. So this was the issue. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan of Toyota, but this is disappointing, guys. Come on. Let's see if I got something in my workshop that can fix this. Oh, my workshop's a pigsty. I really gotta clean it. I guesstimate that to be around 2 1/4 to 2 1/2. I got almost 2 1/2 swings out of this, so let me see what I got in my bucket of tricks. Alright, here's a 2 1/2. That looks pretty close. Let's see if I got a 2 1/4. Just to cover all my bases. What we got here? No, 1 7/8. That ain't gonna cut it. That looks like another 2 1/2. All right, well, let's give this a shot. All right, that 2 1/2 worked out just fine, which is good, because otherwise I was going to put it on anyway just to keep the pipe from rattling and shaking apart, and then put the 2 1/4 on it when I go to the auto parts store to buy one. But the 2 1/2 actually fits pretty good, and it's on there and snug, and problem solved. On to the next job. So the flange where I clamped it together, that made things quieter, but I found out that if I shake it and rattle it, I'm still getting a noise. And if I shake it and rattle it, I'm getting a noise out of this flange. And I saw something hanging off of it. Turned out to be what's left of the gasket. So I think I'm going to have to put a new gasket in that flange. Probably some new bolts too, because I think those are going to fight me and maybe snap when I go to loosen them. Upon further inspection, I found at the rear of the truck, the muffler right by the tailpipe, this heat shield has a bolt rotted out. We have to put on the flash and see if I can get you up there to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can see there is a bolt right there. That one's intact, but up towards the front, there's another bolt that is not intact. Well, the bolt's intact, but there it is. We're gonna need a washer or something on there because it's not holding anything. So that can give us a rattling sound. Okay, it's the next day. I got a new gasket that is going to go in this flange right here, which I've discovered, if I can rattle it just right, is where the noise is coming from. And it's tricky because it does that when I put it in gear. Obviously I'm not under here when I put it in gear. So I got some penetrating oil working on the bolts. They may snap and break, that's fine. I can always replace them. And I'm going to take this apart, get the new gasket in the flange, and then I'll worry about the heat shield in the back. You can see I got it up on ramps today so I can actually fit under here. I literally had to slide my face out from under the truck to turn my head, or my nose would rub the frame. So I didn't have much room to spare. Those ramps are they're sure appreciated. Okay. Oh, this is fun. Maybe I should have fired up the air compressor and the impact gun. Alright, you get the point. You don't need to watch this from start to finish. So the bolts are out. I think I'm looking at what's left of the gasket there. It doesn't seem to want to come out. Let me get a screwdriver and see if I can pry it out. Well, the old one's off. There it is compared to the new one. You can see not much comparison. Not a whole lot left on there. So this definitely needed to be done. And really, the rest of the exhaust is in relatively good condition. So, you know, $2 to $4 gasket, not a bad investment. A few minutes of wrenching on some rusty bolts. Not my idea of fun, but could be worse. Let's see if I can get that in there and get the bolts back in. So it wasn't going well at first, but then it popped right in there. So it's on, and I'm gonna get the bolts back in and torque this up. I really feel like maybe it's been leaking for a while and that ate away at the old gasket. Maybe if we had caught this sooner and tightened up the bolts, it never would even have gotten like this. But again, you can get this part on Rock Auto for $2. I got it from Pep Boys, or a local place, not a sponsor. I think it was like $4. From Toyota, $30. Go figure. Let me get those bolts in. So upon closer inspection, there's a shoulder on this bolt that won't let you tighten it any more than once that shoulder bottoms out against the nut. You can kind of see it right there against the right side of the flange. So I guess you could stack some washers between the head of the bolt and the spring to put a little more tension on it, but I'm going to assume the engineers knew what they were doing. And I got it as tight as it'll go, plus a little more on both bolts. So it shouldn't leak, it shouldn't rattle. That should take care of that problem. Now I'm going to drop the spare tire and put a washer on the bolt that holds that heat shield on. And we'll fire it up and put it in gear and see if we got any more noises or rattles. In case you didn't know, and I didn't know, you got to get everything out of the back of the truck, pick up the floorboards. There's a panel over here. There's a panel over there, which I didn't have to remove. Panel in the middle. And then there's this blank cover. You pop off this blank cover, you use this adapter, and you use your jack crank handle to spin the adapter to lower the spare tire down. So just like a bolt, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, if you're spinning it so that the top of the bolt is going around to the left, you are lowering the tire, or loosening it, as it were. It's a two-handed operation, I think. Yeah. So you guys can figure out how to turn a crank. I don't have to walk you through all of this, right? Make sure you give yourself lots of slack, because you gotta get this thing to turn sideways so you can get it through the tire. I may have to lift it up. This is so fun, trying to do this stuff with one hand, let me tell you. I don't even think a tripod would have helped me in this situation. Hopefully you guys can see. But I got that sideways, and now it'll go through the tire. When it's like that, never fails. I really gotta get myself a place out in the middle of nowhere. When it's like this, it won't come through, obviously, but when you turn it sideways, it'll pop through. And now we can get this tire out of our way. So I parked on a hill. The back tires are on the hill. And then it's downhill from where I'm at, so it's nice. I got a lot of room under here now. And now with the spare tire out of the way, you can see there's the little winch thing they gave you for the spare tire. This is the underside of the thing I was turning in the back of the truck. And now we can clearly see this heat shield flapping in the breeze. And the bolt that is pulled through the sheet metal. So we're gonna loosen that up and get some big old washers on it, or maybe even just a piece of sheet metal with a hole drilled in it, and torque that back up, and that'll fix this problem. Now if you look up here, you can see there's the bracket that holds the nut for this bolt, and this bolt doesn't want to come out. I've sprayed some WD-40 on it. Hopefully that loosens it up. But if worse comes to absolute worse, and the bolt snaps or something like that, I can always drill this out and just put a nut above it, or drill it out and retap it for a different size bolt or a bigger bolt, whatever works out for you. A lot of times our minds don't want to work in the sense that, you know, it could be anything different than what the manufacturer did, but for something as unimportant as this, anything that works, anything that tightens this down, stops it from flapping in the breeze, and isn't going to fail in a short period of time is an acceptable repair. It doesn't have to be exactly the way they did it from the factory. But let's see if I can get that bolt out and maybe negate any of those scenarios we just spoke about. Well, this is great. Penetrating oil wins the day. I got the bolt out. It's a small bolt. I ought to be able to find some washers for it in my collection of hardware and whatnot. I've decided I don't want to be back under here doing this again in a couple of weeks. So this actually looks like it's in really good shape where the other bolt was. But I'm going to reinforce both locations just so I won't have to do this again anytime soon. Also, I thought maybe this was cut out for a bolt in the truck somewhere. Maybe this was supposed to be holding this on too, and this broke out. Let me see if I can get a peek under there. Maybe we have another spot we should be fixing too. Oh yeah, look at that. There's another bracket. I'm gonna get some penetrating oil on that and get that bolt out as well. And here, 3 locations. And it might be best for me to put a little new sheet metal over the old and rivet it and drill new holes. Let me see what I got in the way of washers first. But yeah, we'll fix this up. Alright, I found this galvanized sheet metal that I have bits and pieces of. I also have some of it in bigger sheets in abundance. But anyway, I cut it thinking that what I'll do is I will put it over that hole, like so, and diagonally over to this hole, and I'll put the bolt through the galvanized sheet metal, through the heat shield, into the nuts, and that should last pretty much the rest of the life of the vehicle. So I held the sheet metal in place and drilled the holes roughly where I think they gotta go. Made a big old washer for the other one, even though it looks fine. Like I said, I don't want to have to do this again. It's not that hard, but I'm not dropping the tire again and taking this down again if I can avoid it. So let's see how this feels like bolting up. See if it'll cooperate. All right, I got all the bolts in and tight. The sheet metal washer worked out great. I bent the heat shield so I could see what I was doing, and also it was a nightmare trying to line up that bolt in the back there. But my holes were pretty much dead on, and it did go in. it did line up perfectly. And now this is good and tight. I'll bend it back into shape and put the tire back. Make sure this is close but clears so it doesn't hit while the exhaust rattles. And we're back in business. I'll put the tire on and this job will be complete. All right, I got that in. Now this has to go in. And it's gonna fight me. Okay, that is in. Now that can go in, and this can go in. Now I need the panel for here, which I think I accidentally threw up into the middle of the car. Okay, now this goes in. Now the WeatherTech floor mat can go back where it belongs. And let's fire this up and see if it makes any noise. Nice and quiet. So far, so good. Let's kill this and put it in gear. No rattle. Neutral. Drive. Neutral. Reverse. Park. Let's give it the gas. You know what? It does sound a little quieter. I think we did have a little exhaust leak. Alright, and as the RPMs rise and fall, no noise at all. Alright, problem solved. On to the next job. Thanks for watching, guys.